WSOU 89.5 FM. I'm Valentino.
I'm Chewie.
And we're joined today with Melissa Cross. How are you doing today?
I'm fine. I'm sorry.
I love it. I love it. So you are a world-renowned metal coach. You teach people how to scream. You're pretty much a legend in the metal community. I do have to ask, especially in 2020, 2021, the year we've had, how have you been handling it? How have things changed for you?
Oh, it's changed for everybody. So now we're all together because now we don't know what the hell's going on. So we're all unified. Like, what happens now? Where do we go? Where's the shows? I need the shows. I want to know when the shows are. Actually, they are coming back because everybody's calling me like, oh, we got this, we got that. I got to do this. Everybody's like out of shape and freaking out because festivals are, getting booked now, which is, I didn't know it was going to happen, but everybody's on it now. So thank God.
The end in sight. I was actually telling Chewie on air the other day that I haven't been this long without a concert since I was like 12 or 13 years old. Like, especially people in the rock community, which is such an important part of their lives. Like, we're starving for it.
Yes, exactly. This is what being together is what this music is all about. Which is what it was all about in 1968 when I got started in all this. So it's as soon as I saw what was going on, and this was actually the first time I felt it was in the mid 80s, but it was in Connecticut, and I was staying with someone, and it was on this pirate radio station. It wasn't you, but it was something in Connecticut, right? And I heard this like, what is that? And I kind of ignored it. And then like a year later, I got asked by a producer who was, recording these bands at his basement. He said, Melissa, you're a voice teacher. You can help me out. I can't get these kids through a session when they're just coughing blood. And I was like, whoa, okay. Right. And the first person that came was a guy named Ian Keeler, who was with a band called Dismay, which he's no longer alive. He died a few years ago, apparently. And the second one was Jesse Leach from Killswitch. So Jesse Leach was not even, he was still under 20 at the time. Wow. And I heard the sound and I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm not going to take no for an answer. So I imitated him on my own, put a camera down my throat, and figured out a way that you could make that sound without hurting yourself. And then they all lined up, one after the other, including Jamie Josta, who never showed up for his appointment. Never showed up for his appointment, but he told everybody. And so everybody that he told booked a lesson. I never got to see Jamie, but he did just fine all by himself.
Yeah. And that is just so cool because especially to people in the rock and metal community, we love it. We get the raw emotion, but a lot of people outside looking in, they don't fully understand how much emotion goes into metal music. Like, they just hear noise. They don't hear the screaming, like when you really get into it, like the emotional pain you can feel when you oh, it's so good.
Yes. And to do it together with other people.
Yeah.
It's very real. It's very pure. And music has always been an identification choice. I love classical music. I grew up on classical music, but I also grew up as a Beatlemaniac. I was 7 and I was screaming at the television. So I was already, I was initiated when I was really young. So music is not just about, counter, classical music, which is beautiful. I still appreciate it, but that solidarity between them and us, we are the good people. We make the good decisions. We care for one another. We, care for animals. We, stand up for what's right. We help our brothers and our sisters. That is the identification that I make with metal. Now, there are a few people in the metal community that I think have it wrong, but We also practice tolerance. So there is a side of metal that is on the negative side to me. I won't mention any names, but it got, when it can get politically like contentious, then it's not metal anymore. Then it's like human. Metal is the goodness. Metal is the good thing, you know. So this is why I stand by. Even though I'm too old to be doing this, right? I'm not, because I started when I was 7. So thank you, metal community, for making a place where I can still be who I am. Rock chick.
You mentioned that you did have a bit of a classical background. Take us back to that light bulb moment where you discovered that connection between the classical training that you had received and the rock style that you wanted to work with. Was it kind of like a Doc Brown moment where you hit your head and you're like, oh, that's how you do it? Or was it like a process where you're like, all right, you do it this, then you do this, and all right, that's how you do it?
It was a one moment, and it happened because of a vocal injury. I was, my band was playing CBGBs, and I let out this like scream and I let out this scream that was really great, but it hurt. And so I got injured. Just one scream. And because I used the emotion, not the technique that I know, right? Because when I was doing my stuff at CBGB's, and though I was taking classical music lessons, none of the sounds that I was learning in my classical lessons had any relevance whatsoever with what I was doing with my band. So I just threw all the technique out the window and just screamed, and I got hurt. So in the recovery, a speech pathologist was working with my speaking voice, and she gave me this exercise that reminded me of the feeling that I get with classical music, but it was in the context of the spoken word. So all of a sudden, it wasn't classical music that was making that head buzz, but it was like spoken word. I was like, oh, right. And then I was on vocal rest for a while, and I started my journey into voice science, which I am still on. I mean, I still study voice science. That was, let's see, I'm not very good at math, but when is 1985? That's when it happened, in 1985. Because I always wanted to be Janice. Janice was my hero. But I said, I want to be Janice. I want to be the best singer in the whole world, like Janice. They said, oh, okay. Well, we have to get that done properly. We'll get you a voice teacher, right? And it was like, I was like, okay. So how do I get from there to, how does it work? And I figured it out. Like, it was a long journey, but it did have that one eureka moment where classical, like the experience of resonance physically on a certain vowel at a certain frequency, that gave me an experience. And that's how I teach, with experiences, like with actual, instead of sounds, I teach experiences. So the sound is as a byproduct of the somatic, like, understanding in your body of what it's like not to go because that is the problem, is that too much of that hurts. Well, what I'm saying is the voice is not meant to do that for hours and hours like a touring musician. It's okay to do that when you get upset, but you're not upset, 24/7. So there had to be a suitable, kind of sustainable way. And I figured it out.
Exactly. And again, like that's so incredible because of like the groundwork you put in for figuring out, how do I do this without it hurting? The genre of metal, there's so many bands that have had opportunities. And now going back to something you said earlier about, like, obviously when you did it and it first hurt, I do have a question kind of in that vein. A lot of artists sometimes, they'll scream the wrong way, and then they'll mess up their vocal cords. Poor Ollie Sykes had it back in like 2015. Matt from Trivium had it, at some point. Even myself, I've had nodules and had to go to vocal therapy. So I know that, like, obviously vocal cord damage happens. What happens when, you get damaged and you recover it? How do you go back to screaming? Is it like a slow process back?
The body is a very resilient thing. Okay. And healing is, happens. Vocal folds heal. There's, permanent damage with vocal folds is a lot more rare than you would think. Most permanent damage has to do with structural, like getting hit with a ball, where there's some kind of bone or ligament kind of uh, injury. But in terms of like the actual vocal folds, they heal. They heal. Just like when you get, like, you scratch your cornea the next day, your eye heals. It heals. But it goes right back to where it was if you don't change the way that you do it. And it happens faster the second time and the third time, just like sprained ankle, right? So you have to learn a new way. And that's what I do. The first thing we have to do is we have to get rid of the emotional inference of the music. If to learn it, you have to like divorce it from the emotion. That's the hardest thing to do, is to divorce number one from the emotion, and number two from your idea of what it's supposed to sound like. Because when people start learning something new and they go for a sound, they're not in control. They're just doing something from memory that they heard and trying to mimic it. But I'm talking much deeper, like reorganization. So we take all the emotion out. We just make silly sounds. And, I start with this is kind of complex, but the vocal folds themselves don't do that many different things, right? There's four things it could do. It can go, or it can go, ha ha, or it can go, whoop whoop, or that's it. That's what vocal folds in terms of like notes, vowels. There's so much more going on that makes the sound. So we have to get rid of that thing that my voice is coming from here. It's coming from a lot of different places. So it's like a process of getting it into the body memory as opposed to the memory of the sound. And that's the process. And what happens is that once I get my clients able to do what I call fry screaming, that's a word I made up in 2004, which is that the vocal folds themselves, so the vocal folds, they aren't actually touching. So you think when you hear that sound, right, you think that everything is grinding, but actually, yeah, my vocal folds are not touching. They're close, but they're popping like this. So when you get an emotional thing, you're likely to go and hit your vocal folds and smash them together. But I teach people how to keep the vocal folds in proximity, but not actually touching, and that's called fry. So I don't want to like give it all away here, but and of course I can't because this is a long process. But when you do this, like that, what's that character like? Is it called the Edge?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know. It's like that. That is when the vocal folds are not coming together and oscillating. They're just going. They're farting. It's like I'm going with my vocal folds. So that doesn't feel like anger. Doesn't feel anything like anger. It feels like something else. So when you take that and you actually do it with a different part of the vocal fold, the ligament, and you go, yeah. See, that's not very loud. What I just did was loud to you because it hit the microphone before you heard it. So
yeah.
microphones have a lot to do with how you can make this badass sound, because the trick is to engage these higher frequencies, which are louder by perception. The audience hears higher frequencies faster and louder. So when I get yeah, the fact that squeal is in there actually sets it apart from double kick, right? Bass, guitars. That there's no competition with yeah, except cymbals. Everything else is like soaking, saturating all those lower frequencies. So this is like a sort of a mind game kind of thing where you have to learn how to operate your vocal folds in a way that you can give the perception of loudness. But loud is not a verb. That's the problem. People think loud is a verb. They think loud, loud, but that's not the way that it comes into the ears. So all the effort in the world doesn't make you louder when you're in a metal band.
That is so interesting because again, like as an audience and a fan of metal, you hear the scream and you get the emotional resonance of, loud anger. When in reality, it's just like the emotional impact is making it feel loud. The scream itself isn't actually loud.
Doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be loud. And certainly in the lower register, the louder you are, the less likely you are to be heard because you're hitting it too hard. So there's not like that spectrum of frequencies. It's all within a certain parameter, and like it's all mid, low kind of thing. So it kind of like blends in with everything, which is why people can't hear themselves, because they try harder and harder to get louder, and it gets worse and worse the harder you try, because you don't have like the capability of that farting thing that I told you about. That farting thing is fast, man. That's like, this, when I go, yeah, like that, there are frequencies in there that are like 10,000 hertz, which is like, that's like 10,000 cycles per second. That's ridiculously high. But 5K, like 5,000 hertz, that's what's loudest to humans. That's why you have ambulances, they're all high. Like the rooster, that has those frequencies that wakes up the barnyard. The rooster is loud, but it's really loud in terms of the fact that it carries, right? So it's interesting. I'm making everybody a rooster.
I absolutely love it. And again, we keep talking about, like, you've helped so many different artists. I do have to ask, when an artist comes to you, you've had so many extremely, extremely successful artists. I'm sure there's been artists that have came to you that maybe haven't made it in the business as huge. How do you know when an artist has what it takes, like emotionally, to make it in the metal music industry?
Ooh, well, the emotional preparedness, I can't really tell, because I would have to know what kind of personality is going on. And, some people are, love too much and they get bent out of shape when someone breaks up with them and they can't function. So that would be a kind of person that might have trouble in the career, that you're not, because you have to be kind of hard. You have to be relentless and dedicated to what you want. Well, actually, it's not dedication. Most of the people that have gotten very far were not able to do anything else. There was just no question. There's just no question. It's like, this is what I'm doing. This is what I do. I can't do anything else. I'm not working at a bank. I'm not going to work at a gas station. I am a singer. This is what I do. So there's no question. Whether they actually succeed is so contingent on many things. And some of it is like synchronicity. A lot of it is synchronicity. A lot of it is relationships. Like, who do you know at the time that you're doing what you do, and who else is doing something that you can collaborate with? It's like kind of a perfect storm of things. So there's no one way to be successful. But I'm not sure if I'm able to answer that question, but I can tell talent right straight out the bat. Straight out the door, like, make a sound. Like, I can tell if a person is connected with their voice. If their voice is like this and they have no connection and it doesn't move anywhere, I know we're going to have a problem. Because there's a disconnect. So they go, hello, instead of hello, or hi. Hi, like there's no, connection. I can build that connection, but usually people who are super talented, they have that already going on since birth. But that doesn't mean you have to be born to do this. I take that back. Forget what I just said. You do not have to be born to do this. You can learn to do this. Everybody can learn to do this.
So you have a client list that reads like the playlist of an SOU average shift.
I know. You know what? This guy, Tom Bozier, he used to be the editor of Revolver. they wrote an article in Revolver about what I do, and he said my client list was longer than the porta potty line at Ozfest. Which is perfect because at the time Ozfest was, I was going.
Oh, yeah.
Well, with all these clients, was there ever one that when they came to you, you were starstruck, like, wow, this person is trying to come to me for lessons?
Oh, many times. And almost always. I'm like shocked. Like there was one client that I had that actually called my voicemail. We had voicemail, like a machine, like we had a recording machine and you'd like rewind it. And I click it on, it says, "Hello, my name is Kevin Bacon. I'm an actor. I'm calling to book a lesson with Melissa Cross. Could you call me back?" And it's like, "My name is Kevin Bacon and I'm an actor? Are you kidding?" Kevin Bacon is calling my phone. And I called him back and he says, "I can't believe you called me back yourself." I was like, "Dude, I can't believe you called me at all." Like, so Kevin Bacon actually floored me, but many others, many others, like Corey Taylor. Forget about it. That guy was like so talented. So it's like, you want me to teach you? I'm just like a little old lady, but I didn't have to teach him much. That's the thing. It was just a breathing thing with Corey. So he never got injured again.
So what I'm hearing is we need to have Kevin Bacon do a metal cover of Footloose. That's what I want right now after hearing the story.
That's a great idea. Kevin Bacon's son is a metal artist, right? His name is Travis. And Travis Bacon has he took lessons and his dad overheard the practicing and he got interested. So Kevin Bacon is actually an extraordinary musician and songwriter, more on the Americana folk side of things. But that's the thing. When you're a talented actor and everybody knows you as an actor, very hard to be known as something else. So if he tried to do, he has tried to do his music, but no one gives him any credit because it's it pales, compared to his legacy as an actor. So that's unfortunate because he has a lot of talent. But you know what happened? I got to tell you this. Danny Filth, right, from Cradle of Filth, right? Danny Filth came for his lesson, and Kevin Bacon walked out when Danny came in, right? And Kevin was like always coming like super disguised, with like muffled, coat, hat, and he goes, "Oh, was that Kevin Bacon?" I was like, "Yeah, it was Kevin Bacon." He goes, "No, that was Kevin Bacon. Oh my God, that was Kevin,"
Oh.
Danny Phillips, this is classic. I have so many stories for you. I mean, so many stories. My life is very rich. Like Danny Filth, my window was right outside Madison Square Garden. You could see full view Madison Square Garden. He goes, "Is that Madison Square Garden?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Well, why do they call it Madison Square Garden? It's round." Classic stories like that. I have tons of them.
Oh, I love it. I would love to hear. Obviously, you have so many, DVDs and books about like your vocal technique. I would just love to hear stories, a book about just your life as all the stories in it.
I think I want to make that book because the stories precede, like the story started way back. So, we have characters in there like Bob Marley and Eric Clapton and, Stevie Winwood. And these were people that I associated with on a social level, not as a voice teacher, right? But I got front row seat to so many things in my life. So many things. Like the whole rap thing, the whole classic rock. Like I was there. I was there. I was watching. So I remember all this stuff, and I think it would make, a good book because I got a few stories. Got a few.
So to change gears just a little bit, you are currently doing 3 separate lessons: speak, sing, and scream, each 90 minutes for once a week, 3 times a week. Obviously, these 4.5 hours is nowhere near the amount of training to like make sure you're not gonna, hurt yourself indefinitely. It's always something that you probably should keep going back to. But do you feel it's like a good jumping off point, or is it more like a crash course just so you don't hurt yourself until you can get one on one?
It's actually 13 hours because
Oh,
every lesson it happens for 3 weeks, and each lesson is an hour and a half, right? So it starts with the technique as it is addressed with the speaking voice. So there's no music to get, there's no notes, there's no, it's just your voice, right? That's section one. Section two is about singing, but it's not about singing pretty. It's about understanding like the resonating capacity of the voice, which is very important for screaming because it's not about effort. It's about like resonating frequencies, right? Which happens in space in your body, happens in an empty space. It's not a grinding thing, which is what it seems like, right? So that's the second one. And the third class is the scream class, and that's really an advanced class. So if you haven't done the speak class, you're probably going to have trouble in the scream class because there's a certain amount of breath management that you get in the speak class. See, I deal with all those basic breath management, placement stuff in the speaking thing. So it's easier to learn it without applying something else to it. It's like basic. So I would say that you are well on your way to, if you complete the course, all you need to do is repeat all the things that I've taught. That it's the repetition. And so my private lessons became more expensive than the genre of up and coming can handle. And so I wanted to make my lessons for the people, right? And the only way I could do that, because there's too many people, is to make these classes. I find that classes are actually even better than private lessons because you have the opportunity to like work with me online at the end of every class. You can raise your hand, I'll work on an exercise, explain, answer questions, right? But you have this like, person coaching you through the process, which gets better and better. Then if you come to a private lesson, then we can take it from the word from there. But 1 hour is definitely way too short of a time to teach this. 13 hours, that's most of the people that come to, like the stars that come to me, they usually do 6 hours, 6 lessons. And that's like beyond the, it's too expensive for people that aren't have an income. So that's what I did. And I think it's a really great thing because when you work in a class, somebody else is doing exactly the same mistake that you're doing, and you watch them get helped by me, and you go, oh, I get it. And then you see that, and then you can, I think it's a really great way. The group way is a really great way. So I definitely think you all, whoever is a vocalist, should definitely sign up for the next class. The next class is actually Sunday. It starts with a speak class. Sunday is speak, and you can choose 1 p.m. or 7 p.m. Either one, because the Europeans, they choose the 1 p.m. And I think you should do that because you're under my wing. Once you come into class, you are forever under my wing. You can ask me questions. You can write to me. You can, like you're in my club. So you should definitely get on board. And if I know speak is not sexy like scream is, but speak is where the gold is. Speak is where the gold is. It's like understanding breath management, right? And singer, screamer breathing is not, that's not the kind of breathing that we do. We retain air without holding our breath is what we learn how to do. So we retain air in the function of a pressurizer, not like your voice is not made of air. If you put your hand in front of your mouth and go, you don't feel any air. But when you go, you feel the air. So air is not part of the sound. And that's why it has to be learned as a like body function of not letting it go, but not holding your breath. So that's something we learn in speech. And that alone helps so many screamers because they think that if they push air out, that it's going to be louder. Doesn't work like that.
And again, I do love the fact that you know, you are going back and helping out in any way you can, the more up and coming screamers that might not, can't afford a private lesson, but still want to get these techniques. So I think that is so absolutely incredible.
I hope that your listeners will, please. Actually, I have something. Oh, where is it? Oh, I don't have them here. Oh, the housekeeper moved it. But anyway, I have a bunch of DVDs for you guys to give away. So
Yes,
I'm going to
actually.
and the stuff I teach in the classes, it's on the DVD, but it's like the way I do it now is so much better than what I did in 2005. So I suggest that, get the DVD. Actually, the DVD itself is a piece of history. Okay, because it has like a B-roll of all of those bands of Sounds of the Underground, Ozfest, like all they're like backstage, like Keith Buckley as a kid, Tommy Vext as a small teenager, Randy Blythe in his 20s, actually, yeah, in his 20s, yeah. Like these are, there were all these great bands. Andrew WK was one of my first clients. Like all of these people are on there in their younger selves, and there's footage of live shows, like of hardcore shows and stuff. So it almost like the B-roll is like a slice of life of what it was like in the early 90s. I mean, late 90s, early 2000s, which is when this kind of genre kind of sort of sprung from the underground. It started in the mid 80s, but my first concert I saw was Slayer, Megadeth, and the Bad Brains.
Wow. What a lineup.
I saw that and I was like, whoa, wow, this is really, whoa, what are these kids? What are these kids doing? They're running into each other. What's going on? I remember on the balcony looking down at the sea of moshing kids. And I was like, we're not in Kansas anymore. This is not going anywhere. And I want to be a part of it. But God damn it, I'm too old. So I thought, gosh, I wonder how I could be a part of this somehow. It's so cool. Oh, I guess I am too old. And then ring, ring, ring. Can you help me with these art? It was like serendipity.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much again for sitting down and talking with us today. Again, to all of our WSU listeners listening in or watching this, you can, listen in to WSOU for the whole month. We'll be giving away these DVDs. So, call in for your chance to win. You could, get a physical copy of this. And again, if you want to learn more, just go onto your website. Thank you so much, Melissa Cross. We really appreciate it.
I have one more thing I have to say.
Of course.
It's a secret.
Okay.
So, as you know, probably, I was an artist before I was a voice teacher, right? And I'm a songwriter. And I have written a song that's actually in rotation on your station. So what I'm asking you, because I've been listening to WSOU even before it was a metal station, like way in the back when they were like doing stories every morning before work, I would like listen to the story and stuff. So I am this is my dream come true. My song is on WSOU. So the song is like, there's a band that I work with, have been working with, that allows me to collaborate writing wise with them. They're called Sun and Flesh. The track is called Unbreakable. I want you to request Unbreakable for me.
You heard it here first, folks. Request Unbreakable. Call in as many times as you want. Let's get the song on the airwaves again.
Sun and Flesh. It's already in rotation. Call up and say, I love that song. Melissa Cross told me to request this song. So anyway, that's what I wanted to say. It's a secret, though. Don't tell too many people.
All right. Thank you so much again.